of you. In the previous lecture, we have seen some important attributes of the conventional AM or DSBC type of the modulated signal. Now next, in continuation to that, we'll look at the generation of such signals. How do we generate them physically? Alright, so there are two important or you can say most widely used methods by which we generate conventional AM or DSBC type of modulated signal. First one is your square law modulator, and second one is your switching modulator. These are the two different types of modulators which are most frequently or most widely used type of circuits to generate your conventional AM or DSBC type of a signal. Alright, when we are talking about DSBC, that is double sideband with carrier, that means the modulated signal is a form that consists of carrier and multiplication of message and carrier. Broadly we can say that this is the general representation of a DSBC signal, because the actual representation was AC cos omega CT plus AC into mu cos omega MT into cos omega CT, which is, so this is your carrier signal and this is kind of your MT into CT, modified version of MT into CT with some different scaled version. We don't worry about the scalar factor over here because that can be easily compensated through any kind of amplifier circuit or the feedback loop circuit, right? So broadly we can say that any DSBC type of a signal, double sideband with carrier, consists of two components, your carrier and multiplication of the message and the carrier signal, right? That is clear. So we want to generate such a kind of a signal. Now let us study first type of the method to generate such signal, that is square law modulator. I'll first draw the block diagram of the square law modulator and then I'll go through the mathematics behind that. So we have a summer and the input given are your message signal and the carrier signal. You first sum the message and the carrier signal. Let's say it result into some signal V1 that is passed through a square law device. And then resulting signal, let's say it's V2, that is given as input to a band pass filter, and then we finally expect that the resultant would be a amplitude modulated signal, and the pass band of this band pass filter is considered to be omega C plus minus omega M. Alright, that means the frequency characteristic of this band pass filter will be something like this: omega C minus omega M, omega C plus omega M. Okay, so this is the pass band of the band pass filter that we are going to use over here. Alright, so now let us look at the mathematics behind this block diagram and see how this helps in generating the desired DSBC or conventional amplitude modulated signal. So firstly, the signal V1 is nothing but sum of message and the carrier signal. Okay, so this becomes MT plus AC cos omega CT. Alright, now comes the second signal. We pass this V1 signal through a square law device and the resultant is V2. That means the next step is we give V1 as input to the square law device and the resultant output is V2. Now the square law device is a circuitry such that the relationship between V1 and V2, it's a combination of discrete elements such that the relationship between V1 and V2 is that V2 is equal to A1 into V1 plus A2 into V1 square. So this square law device is a circuit consisting of discrete elements such that the relationship between V2 and V1 is this: V2 is equal to that means the output of the square law device V2 is equal to A1 is any scalar, A2 is any scalar, A1 times V1 plus A2 times V1 square. Okay, we design a circuit such that we get this kind of a relationship. Now let us see how this relationship or this step helps us in finding out the desired generating the desired signal. Okay, so mathematically V2 will be equal to A1 times of V1. V1 is what? Mt plus AC cos omega CT, right? Plus A2 into V1 square. So it will be M square T plus AC square cos omega square CT plus 2MT into AC cos omega CT, right? So this is your V2, correct? Now we pass this V2 signal through a band pass filter with such a characteristics, right? The pass band lies in the range omega C minus omega M to omega C plus omega M. Okay, we design the filter such that this is the pass band of that filter and we pass V2 through this. So this V2 signal is given as input to band pass filter. Now let us analyze the output. Okay, now let us analyze this V2 signal component wise. Okay, there are several terms present in this signal. Now let us analyze term by term and the effect of that term when it gets passed through band pass filter. The first term will be A1 into MT. What is the frequency component present in here? In this component, it is omega M, right? The frequency of MT is considered to be omega M. So does omega M pass through this band pass filter? No. Omega M is a frequency which is much smaller than omega C, right? So definitely omega M will get eliminated when we pass this signal through the band pass filter. So this signal will get eliminated. Next is your A1 into AC cos omega CT. So the frequency component present is omega C in this component, in this term. So obviously when we pass omega C through this pass band, it will be passed, right, without any distortion. This A1 into AC cos omega CT will be passed because omega C lies well in this region, right? So this will be passed. Next component is A2 into M square T. M square T. Now what is the frequency component present in M square T? If we analyze this component M square T, what is the frequency component? In MT the frequency component is omega M, right? M square T is what? MT into MT, right? MT into MT, sorry, right? And in frequency domain that will result into M omega convolution M omega. We have already seen this property that if the frequency component present here is omega M, here is omega, also omega M, the convolution, the resultant convolution would be your sum of these two, twice of omega M, right? The frequency component present in the resultant of this convolution M omega convolution M omega will be twice of omega M. So the frequency component present in M square T is twice of omega M. So does that pass through the band pass filter? Answer is no, because omega M is much smaller than omega C, and twice of omega M, the relationship will remain as it is, and hence twice of omega M will not pass through this pass band. So this component also gets eliminated. Next is AC square cos square omega CT. So what is the frequency component present in cos square omega CT? In cos omega CT the component is omega C. In cos square omega CT obviously the component will be twice of omega C. So will that pass through the band pass filter? This is the pass band of the band pass filter. No, twice of omega C would be somewhere over here and that won't pass through this, and hence this will also be eliminated. Now we come to this signal which is MT into AC cos omega CT. It is multiplication of two signals, remember, MT and cos omega CT. The frequency component present in MT is omega M, component in this AC cos omega CT is omega C. We multiply these two, so the resultant would be in the frequency domain would be convolution of these two. So the resultant frequency component present in this would be omega C plus minus omega M. Okay, so let us check if that will pass through the band pass filter or not. Yes, omega C plus omega M will also pass. Omega C minus omega M would also pass. That means this last component will also pass through the band pass filter. Alright. So now based upon this analysis, only two components, AC cos omega ct into A1 plus A2 into this MT into AC cos omega ct, these two components will be passed through the band pass filter and the remaining terms will be eliminated, right? So the resultant, which is supposed to be your amplitude modulated, conventionally amplitude modulated signal, will consist of A1 into AC cos omega ct plus A2 into MT into AC cos omega MT into cos omega ct. So clearly now if you analyze this output, what is this term? This term is nothing but some scaled version of the carrier signal ct, plus what is this term? It is multiplication of message and the carrier with some scaling factor. So A2 into MT into ct. So clearly it is nothing but combination of your carrier plus multiplication of message and the carrier signal that will result into double sideband, and this is your carrier signal. And as we have seen in the starting of this lecture that this DSBC or conventional amplitude modulated signal consists of this, the general expression is something like this, that is carrier plus multiplication of these two. We don't have to worry about these scaling factors. These can be eliminated at any point at the circuit using some discrete elements, making a simple amplifier circuit. So that means the resultant is nothing but your double sideband with carrier signal or conventional amplitude modulated signal. So this is how we generate the DSBC type of a signal using square law kind of a modulator. Using this simple circuit, we can generate this kind of a modulated signal, right? So this is the first type of the you can say modulator, which is used to generate your conventionally amplitude modulated signal or DSBC type of the signal. All right. So moving on, look at the second type of the generator or the modulator, that is switching modulator. If you look at the block diagram of switching modulator, it is quite similar to your that square law modulator, but the difference here is it is much simpler in you can say designing. The hardware implementation is quite simpler as compared to the switching modulator, and gives you the approximately the same kind of a result, and it is much cheaper to implement as well. Okay, but the mathematics behind it will be a little complex, but overall the resultant is much simpler. Okay, you can see compare both the block diagrams. We again have a summer which adds the message and the carrier signal, and then instead of you say that the switching the square law device, we have a switching device which is nothing but a diode, and then we further have the same band pass filter, and then the output signal is expected to be a double sideband with carrier type of a signal. Again the pass band would remain same, omega c plus minus omega m, and this is your diode which acts as your switching device. Okay, let's say this is your output y of t. Okay, at this point, so the only difference is in this block. In case of the previous method, that was your square law device method, we had a square law device here instead of a diode, which is quite complex to design as compared to just a diode, which is a very cheap element. Okay, this is the concept. Okay, now let us look at the logic and the mathematics and the principle behind this block diagram. Okay, the output of this summer will be again same, that is AC cos omega ct plus MT, right? Now this is given as input to the diode, right? The function of diode is that diode will act as a switch. It will be on when the signal is positive, off when the signal is negative, forward biased and the reverse biased. As simple as that. Okay, we'll use the same concept here. Diode will act as a switch. So diode, which is acting as a switching device over here, will be used instead of a square law device. That is the difference between the two methods. Now the input to the diode is the sum of these two components, the carrier and the message signal. So the switching depends on this combination. Okay, now if we carefully analyze this combination, we'll find that this carrier component, which is AC cos omega ct, dominates this entire sum. And the reason is quite clear, it's quite intuitive, because the strength of carrier, the carrier power, is more as compared to the message power. We say that power of the carrier is more as compared to power of the message signal. That is that is quite easy to understand, because carrier is, you know, AC cos omega ct, mt, let's say it's AM cos omega mt, right? AC is always greater than equal to AM for proper amplitude modulation. The reason we already know, because the modulation index should lie between the modulation index mu should lie in the range 0 to 1, and which is nothing but equal to AM by AC. It should lie between 0 to 1. That means AC will always be greater than AM, right? Since AC is greater than AM, so power of this carrier, that is AC square by 2, will always be greater than power of message, which is AM square by 2, right? So we can comfortably say that this combination signal AC cos omega ct, that is carrier plus message, will be dominated by the carrier signal only. Okay, that means the switching of the diode will depend primarily on the carrier signal. This is an important takeaway from here that will form the basis of the derivation. The switching of the diode depends on the polarity of the carrier signal. Okay, because the strength of carrier is more than the strength of message. Okay, so one thing is clear, the switching of this diode depends on the polarity of the carrier signal. Now when we pass this signal through a diode, the diode will act as a switch for this input signal. Alright, so the resultant signal from the diode, that is YT, that will be equal to AC cos omega ct plus MT, which is the sum part, into S of t, right? This ST is the coefficient introduced by switching coefficient introduced due to the diode. Okay, so this ST is nothing but your switching coefficient, and that is introduced due to the carrier signal and depends on the carrier signal only, because the diode switching takes place due to carrier, so the switching coefficient will also depend on the carrier. So the duty cycle for this will be 50%, because we know carrier is a sinusoidal waveform, rather a cosine waveform of such form, right? So the polarity is positive for 50% of the time period only. So for this duration the diode will be on or forward biased, and for this duration diode will be reverse biased or in the off condition, right? So depending on the carrier, the polarity will be depending on the polarity of the carrier, diode will switch either in the off or in the on direction, right? So let us now find out the expression for this switching coefficient. We know it depends on the carrier signal with duty cycle 50%. It will control the switching of diode. Diode will be on and off depending on this, right? So this switching coefficient S can be assumed to be a square waveform, because the duty cycle is 50% only. T by 4 it will be on in this region and off in the other half of the time period, and let's say this is the complete time period T. Okay, duty cycle is 50%. Alright, so let's say this is the representation of ST. Let us find out the representation of ST, expression of ST, so that we can mathematically analyze the whole process. Alright, so let us find out, since it's a periodic signal, clearly. So let us go by Fourier series domain representation of it. So Fourier series representation of ST, we'll find out that Fourier series representation of ST. We'll have to find out this Fourier series representation since it's a periodic signal to get the background of the whole mathematical analysis, right? So this ST can be written as the standard representation of exponential Fourier series would be summation n tending towards from minus infinity to infinity Cn e raised to power jn omega ct, where Cn is the Fourier series coefficient and C of n is equivalent to the Fourier series coefficient Cn. The standard expression is 1 upon t, where capital T is the time period. Integration range from 0 to t xt e raised to power minus j omega c tn dt. So let us first find out this Fourier series coefficient that will help us to find out the Fourier series representation of the coefficient s of t. So we'll find out the zeroth coefficient c0, that will be 1 by t, and we know this xt, this ranges from in a single time period. If we talk about a single time period, it is 1 in the range minus t by 4 to t by 4, and in the other half of the time period it's 0, right? So if we are discussing about one time period, so the range of this integral would be minus t by 4 to t by 4 1 into dt, that is nothing but equivalent to 1 by 2, right? Now let us find out the other Fourier series coefficients. Cn, that is 1 by t, range would be minus t by 4 to t by 4 1 into e raised to power minus j n omega t. Alright, simplify this integral, we get 1 upon t, a negative complex exponential e raised to power minus j n omega t divided by minus j n omega, and the range is from minus t by 4 to t by 4. Simplify this expression, and I'm skipping the intermediate steps and writing down the final expression. If we further simplify it and apply some mathematical manipulations and trigonometric identities, the coefficient c of n comes out to be sine of n pi by 2 divided by n pi. You can please verify this final expression. And now since it's a sinusoidal signal and the argument is n pi by 2, so we'll find it out for different even and odd values of n. So when n is even, n is equal to even, Cn would be equal to 0, clearly, because sine of this argument would lead us to the coefficient to be 0. And when n is equal to odd, that means when the values of this Fourier series coefficient would exist, so we can find out the coefficients like c1 or c minus 1, c3, c minus 3, c5, c minus 5, and so on, right? You can find out such values of the Fourier series coefficient. Hence, if we write down the composite expression of c of n consisting of all the available components, then one is c0, that is 1 by 2, plus this is your c0th element. Then c minus 1 will also be present, that will be sine of minus pi by 2 divided by minus pi, this will be c of minus 1. Then when we substitute n is equal to 1, we get sine of pi by 2 divided by pi, this is c1 coefficient, right? Sorry, into e raised to power j omega ct into e raised to power minus j omega ct, and so on, like sine of minus 3 pi by 2 divided by minus 3 pi into e raised to power plus j3 pi omega t, alright, and so on. Right, we can find out all the odd components of the Fourier series coefficients. Now with the help of the sine minus pi by 2 is nothing but equivalent to minus 1, sine pi by 2 is equal to 1, sine minus 3 pi by 2 is again equal to plus 1, 3 pi by 2, that would be the c3 coefficient, that will be lead to minus 1. So hence this Fourier series coefficient comes out to be 1 by 2 plus 1 upon pi, let's take this as common, e raised to power j omega ct plus e raised to power minus j omega ct plus minus 1 by 3 into e raised to power j3 omega ct minus 1 by 3 e raised to power minus j sorry, 1 is j, 3 omega ct, and so on, right? Again, applying the Euler's identity, we can limit this as, we can simplify it as 1 by 2 plus 1 by pi 2 cos omega ct minus 1 by 3 into 2 cos 3 omega ct, and so on. Okay, this is nothing but your Cn expression. We are not writing down the higher order terms because those will be anyhow eliminated by the band pass filter that we are going to study further. Now we have this Cn with us. Sorry, this Cn, if we substitute this is not Cn, rather it is here S of t. I have already substituted in the expression of the Fourier series here. This was the coefficient. So before I found out the C of n, and then I substitute the C of n into S of t, that will give us this expression, right? So this is your, if you multiply with a complex exponential, it is your S of t, not C of n rather. So this is your S of t. Instead of Cn, it is S of t, your switching coefficient. This is the Fourier series representation of the switching coefficient, right? Now if you multiply this switching coefficient with your summation of message and the carrier that we have to do for this switching kind of a modulator, this expression St multiplied by Mt into Mt plus AC cos omega Ct. Let us look at the final terms now. Yt is equal to Mt plus AC cos omega Ct into S of t. Substitute this S of t over here. We get Mt plus AC cos omega Ct 1 by 2 plus 2 upon pi cos omega Ct minus 2 by 3 pi cos 3 omega Ct plus so on. We are not bothered about the higher order terms because those will be anyhow eliminated. Now simplify this expression. This is Yt expression, right? This is Mt by 2 plus AC cos omega Ct by 2 plus 2 upon pi Mt into cos omega Ct plus 2 AC upon pi cos square omega Ct minus 2 by 3 pi Mt into cos of 3 omega Ct minus 2 by 3 pi into AC cos of omega Ct into cos of 3 omega Ct, and so on. These will be the terms. Now this Yt will be passed through a band pass filter with the pass band of omega c plus minus of omega m, which will eliminate some of the terms and pass the others. So when we pass this signal Yt through the band pass filter with the range, the pass band of omega c plus minus omega m, let us analyze this expression and the terms that will be eliminated. So the first term is Mt by 2, so the frequency component present is omega m. So definitely this will be eliminated. It won't pass through the band pass filter with such a pass band having centered around omega c and the range omega c plus omega m to omega c minus omega m, right? So the terms only lying whose frequency components are lying in this range will pass through this band pass filter. The second term is AC cos omega Ct. The frequency component present over here is omega c, which will definitely be passed through this band pass filter. Third term is 2 upon pi Mt into cos omega Ct. It is multiplication of your message and the carrier signal. We have already seen that it's the multiplication of two different frequency components. In the frequency domain, it will be convolution of these two, and the frequency components will get added, right? So this consists of omega m frequency, this consists of omega c. So the frequency component present in this term would be omega c minus plus minus omega m. So will it pass through this band pass filter or not? Yes, definitely. So this term will also get passed through the band pass filter. Next term is this 2 by pi AC into cos square omega Ct. The frequency component present in this term is twice of omega c, and hence it will be eliminated by the band pass filter. We've already seen that in the previous method, that was square law detector method, also square law modulator method. Next term is your minus 2 by 3 pi mt into cos 3 omega ct. Again, it's multiplication of two different frequency components. So the resultant component present would be this omega c, 3 omega c plus minus omega m. Okay, so now will it pass through this passband or not? Definitely not, because we know that omega c is a much higher frequency as compared to omega m. So thrice of omega c would lie somewhere over here, and that won't pass through this passband of the band pass filter. So this term would also get eliminated. Similarly, this term will also get eliminated, and the other higher order terms will also be eliminated. We are left with only these two terms, this and the first two terms, right? So the resultant signal after band pass filtering would be your AC cos omega ct by 2 and plus 2 upon pi mt into cos omega ct. Now if you again carefully analyze this term, it is some scaled version of your carrier signal 1 by 2 of ct plus some scaled version of the multiplication of message and the carrier signal. So the general expression is quite similar to the expression of the conventional AM or double sideband with carrier type of a signal. Only difference is with the scaling factors, right? And this scaling, we are not bothered at all about the scaling factor, because those can be eliminated at any point of time using the discrete elements by designing some amplifiers or the feedback loop circuits. Alright, so this is how we are going to generate the conventional amplitude modulated signal or the DSBC type of a signal using the switching modulator type of a circuit. The advantage of using switching modulator is that the hardware implementation is much simpler and cheaper, because the number of the elements, discrete elements, and the other elements required is much less, because instead of a square law device we need to only put up a diode here, which is a very cheap element, right? So this is how we can generate the conventional amplitude modulated signal or the double sideband with carrier type of a signal. Yeah, so that is all in this lecture. We'll continue with the conventional AM topic, the detection of the conventional AM in the coming lectures. Thank you.